Hello and welcome back to the Long Live Rock and Roll podcast with your hosts, Mr. Laz and Mr. Felipe Amorim. Felipe, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. And you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, very well. I'm a bit tired today. Just one of those days you're just a little tired. Things
Yeah.
catch up to you. How about you? You must always be tired in Soho, like
I'm
hustle
always
and
been
bustle.
playing 6 gigs a week and teaching all day. Yeah, it's
There you
always
go. What
like
have I got to complain about?
yeah. I'm not complaining either. It's just say it's a hectic lifestyle here, but it's worth it. I like it.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Should we jump straight in as
We're
usual?
gonna jump straight in, but I want to start with cup of tea, so just in
Oh, there we
case
go. That's
it's
the drink of the. Oh. A cup of tea. There you
yeah,
go.
if you
But
can hear it, I'm just it's just a cup of tea. And
yeah.
oh, we're doing video now, isn't it?
That's it, yeah. So the
Yeah.
viewers can actually see that is a can of Stella
Oh
Artois
crap.
can.
Yeah.
But who
Anyway,
cares? Who
they're not
cares?
sponsoring me yet, but if I show this, maybe I get some.
We'll
Anyway,
see, we'll see. Anyway, we're doing an album today, as usual. And the album we're doing is a bit different this one. We're doing a live album. And the live album we're doing is Frampton Comes Alive by Peter Frampton. Now, it was released January 6th, 1976, but 5 weeks later in the UK, actually, which I thought was quite funny. Recorded across four American shows, I believe, at the Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco, Long Island Arena, New York, and the SUNY Club in New York as well. They call it a rock genre album, and it lasts about 78 minutes long. This is another album that you chose, Felipe, and I want to know why you chose this one.
well, I chose for one simple reason. We haven't done a live album yet. We did talk a lot about live performances. We did a few episodes talking about how different it is when people play live and playing studio, but we never actually talked about a whole live album. And I thought, well, there's loads of interesting live material out there, but this was kind of like really, really important, groundbreaking album, and maybe the most famous live album, or definitely one of the best-selling live albums of all time. And it was released in 1976, so my favorite decade, the 70s.
Best.
Yeah, I wasn't there, I wasn't around, but
Yeah, he's old. He's older than me, but he's not that old.
not that old. That was like a good 8 years before I was born now. But I think the historic importance of this album, I think it has to be mentioned. Also, the songs are great, and I think Peter Frampton is is one of those, you know, legendary guitar players who is more than a guitar player.
Mm,
He's a great composer, songwriter, and I think just like we did the episode about Fleetwood Mac, this is one of those albums where you basically have pop music performed by rock artists. And
yeah.
I'm a big fan of pop music, but this is a rock show, isn't it? We're here to talk about all things rock and roll. But um, sometimes the lines between rock and pop are really blurred. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, in the album, I can hear lots of stuff, really. I mean, I thought it actually had quite a progressive element to it. Not progressive, 2 weeks ago we spoke about Dream Theater. I'm not talking about that kind of progressive. It's not like time signature changes everywhere. But you've got things like key changes. You've got unusual atmospheric and, yeah, effecty FX on the guitars
Yeah,
just to pull you into an atmosphere more than like being just loose rock and roll where the guitars are loud and distorted. There's more care has been taken with the tone of the instrument, I think. So yeah, in that sense, it was a bit progressive, but yeah, pop music done in a rock setting, right?
yeah, exactly. So again, it's one of those songs. If you play, any of those songs on acoustic guitar and just sing on top of it, they sound like any radio-friendly pop songs. Not
Mm,
like any. They sound like some of the best
yeah.
radio-friendly kind of pop songs. Um, but the way it's arranged and played makes it rock music for me.
Mm,
You know.
yeah, no, I agree. Um, I think what we're going to do is we're going to kind of do the same thing we did with the Dream Theater album, which is because it's such a long album. To go song by song, I think it's going to be too long and there's going to be too much to say. And there are similar aspects in the songs. So we've broken this down into several categories. And the first one I want to talk about, let's go with what you were saying, which is the songwriting.
Yeah.
And the thing that I want to pick up from straight away is the accessibility of the album and the appeal of music to a wider audience. Because you are right in saying that this is one of the most famous live albums ever, and I have no problem admitting that I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of a song off it, and I'd heard Peter Frampton in name, but that's it. Didn't know what he looked like. Didn't know he was a guitarist. This is completely new to me. Everything about this album is new to me. Um, but to hear that it's like one of the best-selling live albums of all time, I thought, how can that be? That I, like, not that I know, not that I'm the be-all and end-all of music knowledge and everything, but I thought, how can, everyone's heard of Thriller by Michael Jackson, but I found it odd that I didn't know this one. And what I found was that each and every song was so easy to listen to, so easy to sway your head to, like you can imagine getting the lighters out on some of the songs. For the rocky ones, it was nice to sort of, a couple of driving songs where you just bang your head. Very easy to listen to. Pleasant melodies, agreeable progressions, not overly long songs. I mean, some of them are a bit a bit extended, but not stupidly. And I think this you can tell this from the success of the album that it spent so long on the Billboard charts. There is music for everyone in there.
Yeah, there is, and the singles are great. They made the perfect choices for singles, isn't it? Just making sure I'm not talking shit here. Yeah, it was "Show Me the Way," "Baby I Love Your Way," and "Do You Feel Like We Do." Those are the three
Correct.
singles. Two of them are really short songs, the first two, and "Do You Feel Like We Do" is 14 minutes long, but the single edit version of it is like 7 minutes and 40 something seconds.
Okay.
Still longer than "Hey Jude" by the Beatles. So yeah, it's a really really long one, but it's a great live performance. Is where you can hear the band. Everyone takes a little bit of improvisation in there, and you can hear how good they are as a band and as individual musicians. And
Mm,
you have all the atmosphere from the 70s, isn't it? It's a bit psychedelic, and it's not so predictable as a pop album would be. So that's
yeah.
the rock side of it. And yeah, I believe in terms of songwriting, I agree with you. I love that you said agreeable chord progressions. It's a really good word.
Well, I
Because
come
it's like
from
it's that it doesn't shock you, is it? There's never that chord. They think, well, why is that chord there?
exactly, and
You
I
know?
come from a heavy metal background where
Yeah,
the whole invention of heavy metal came from two notes by Black Sabbath that are completely disagreeable. So I
yeah,
thought agreeable is a good word to describe anything that's not normal metal. So
yeah,
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 it's everything's pleasant. There's not, as you said, there's not a moment in the album where even let's get away from like notes that sound heavy metally. Let's talk about disagreeableness in terms of jazz, where
yeah,
sometimes, as you and me know, we've played in jazz bands together. The whole point of jazz is tension and release. You
right.
create the tension by playing chords that don't necessarily work together, or you play one note over a chord that creates a little bit of tension. And then how do you do that? You release the chord, you release the tension by resolving one of the notes or something. And there wasn't even that in the album,
No,
yet it doesn't get boring. I think
exactly.
I think when you hear some stuff, what was it? I think it was "We're an American Band" where I said one of the songs, the guitar is purposely playing something really dissonant, and it just works as a nice little contrast and a nice little balance to all the nice rock music we've been hearing,
Yeah,
and that kind of tells you how they're structuring the album. But to have nothing in a live album, not even like a jazz solo jam where they
right.
said everyone just we're going to do 5 minutes, everyone takes a 1 minute solo, play whatever you want, but show off. That's normally the part where audiences can be like, all right, let's just take a chill a minute. Oh, you're
And
going to play some avant-garde stuff. All right, give it to me then.
and
Nothing.
when we think
Yeah,
about Frampton as a guitar player, I would probably guess that he sees himself more as a songwriter. Because we said the same about Mark Knopfler when we were talking about Broads in Arms.
we did.
It takes like half of the album for the first guitar solo to actually happen in
Yeah.
the album. And this he takes a solo in every song, but it's more riff based. He's more interested in creating melodies with the guitar and riffs,
Mm,
and you can hear that in pretty much every song. But it takes a while for him to take a long solo. Most of the solos are short. It's
mm,
kind of interesting. I think the first one, yeah, I want to go to the sun. That's That's the first kind of long solo in the album, not really, but the
Yeah.
song is really groovy. So it doesn't, it doesn't sound like guitar wanking. Never sounds like that,
Oh no, very
Yeah,
far from that. Very far
yeah.
from that. It's tasteful. Very,
Stays
very
for yeah,
tasteful throughout.
because yeah, his influences were quite diverse, like from Beatles and Hendrix and Buddy Holly. So he wasn't a guy who was only interested in playing the guitar. He wanted to create melodies, and I think this is a big part of his
Mm.
music. And there's one of my favorite songs is "Penny for Your Thoughts." It's like a minute and 23 seconds or something like that. The shortest song in the album.
Yeah.
So my two favorites are the shortest and the longest song in the album. It's "Penny for Your Thoughts" and "Do You Feel Like We Do," which is
Yeah.
14 minutes long. So "Penny for Your Thoughts" is the classical guitar piece, pretty
Mm.
much. No, so that's him saying, okay, I'm a guitar player, I can do some stuff. And
Mm.
that's classical composition, really. And then you have Baby I Love Your Way, which is totally like radio friendly pop song with catchy chorus.
Is that his song?
Yeah, I think he wrote that. That's a good
Yeah, because
question.
that's a
I
song I've
didn't
heard
check all the
before.
songwriter. Hmm?
Yeah, that's a song I've heard before. You hear that song on the radio,
Oh no,
but
yeah, he wrote that song. Do you know
yeah,
what? I'll
excellent.
double check that if he wrote with someone else, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
it's
it doesn't sound like one of those songs that a rock musician comes up with on his own. It's
well,
like
yeah, he might have he might have a co-writer for that
yeah,
one. Good
but
to double check. Google should know. No, it is written by him and released initially in 1975 as a
there you
single
go.
because
So it was a new
he had
single.
4 albums before the live album. That's the other interesting thing about this album is I think the first time uh, a musician became famous for that live album rather than the studio albums.
Ah,
Probably, Made in Japan by Deep Purple was really big, but they already released
Machine Head.
Machine
Yeah,
Head by the time, so you can't really claim that the album actually made their career. So in
yeah.
this case, Frampton had 4 albums. He didn't have hits like to the point he was internationally well known, and it's like his career wasn't going anywhere until this album, and then boom, 8 million
Well,
copies sold in the US alone.
yeah. Let's talk then about the hits because um, another big aspect of this album is the set list and the song choice because
Yeah,
it's been renowned and lauded by critics and fans that this was one of the fantastic things. So we'll do a checklist, all right? The accessibility.
yeah,
There is something for everyone on the album, and each song you could class as easy listening rock.
yeah,
Fair? Next up, we've got the set list. Fans and critics have praised this because it is a hit machine. The set list, again, I don't know Frampton, so I can't comment on this, but the set list is apparently everything Frampton's fans could have wanted. He's literally picked the 3 best songs from each of his 4 albums and put them in a set list. Now, that in itself, when
no
audiences
fillers, no
no
fillers at
fillers.
all.
And when audiences get performances of songs they like and songs they know to be of quality, then it's almost like it takes the show up 10% on its own, isn't it? Just getting the right
Yeah,
set list.
yeah, exactly. I think, and also for a live concert, you want to keep people interested from start to finish,
Hmm.
and the obvious choice would be to play your hits, but musicians sometimes they just want to
Sell the next
do
album.
you will make the artistic choice. I like the song because I wrote the song for my mom, whatever. If people don't want to hear it, it's not good for the gig. And again, I think if you have never listened to any of his songs and you turned up for the gig, you would love it. I think
Yeah,
that's how good the whole thing is.
yeah,
And there's no even when they take long solos, I think in the live context it works. I think there's nothing in the album there's there for the sake of showing off or
for the
sounding
sake of
artistic.
for the sake of artistic ego, it's not there, is
Yes,
it?
no, it's
Feels
an
like
ego-free album for sure, in my opinion, and it's what makes it big. It's what makes, as I said, accessible. So if you're not rock fan, you can listen to it, and if you are a rock fan but you don't dislike pop music completely, there's no way you're going to dislike this album.
Yeah,
And there's no way you're not going to end up singing along after you hear the chorus for the first time, because then you just learn the lyrics. It's one of those things like Show Me the Way and Baby I Love Your Way, those songs, when you listen to them for the first time, you are going to sing along with the second chorus.
When it comes,
It's
yeah,
it's
you're right.
as
Yep.
simple as that. You can learn the melody and the lyrics straight away the first time you listen to them. I've listened to those songs on the radio for like a long time, but they've played a million times on the radio back in
Yeah.
Brazil. So, but I only knew those two songs until I got into the album and until I started listening to the other things he did. He also worked as a composer for soundtracks. He did, Almost Famous. So the songs by that
Oh, well, the
fake band,
movie.
that band, he is the songwriter.
Wow.
He
I didn't
wrote
know that.
I think he wrote every single song. What's the name of the band? It's Still Water or something like that.
I've only watched it once, and that was with you when
Yeah,
we were on tour. Do you
yeah,
remember?
it's a great movie. But Frampton was a songwriter, so basically he probably was told to write in the style of Led Zeppelin or
Yeah,
the Who and those guys, and he
yeah,
did
yeah.
an amazing job writing those songs.
No, it
So
was a good
yeah, he
soundtrack.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing, well, you mentioned like the set list. I want to say something that I found when I listened to this carefully. There's no actual fast songs.
Mhm.
They're not too
Great
slow. There's
point.
a certain pace throughout the whole album. Never gets too fast.
It never goes
Never
too slow
never
either.
stays too slow for
Yeah,
too long.
no,
So that's a really interesting thing. So
that's a great point.
yeah,
Yeah,
one thing that really surprised me, something's happening. The first song, something's
yeah,
happening. It's just an uplifting rock and roll song, cheesy backing vocals, kind of catchy chorus. And the guitar solo is short and melodic, classic Frampton style, but it's not an explosive opening song, isn't it?
no, it isn't. And I actually thought that as well.
That's
Yeah,
like, I don't know if I would start a gig with a song that is not really like loud and fast and straight to the chorus. That's not a predictable song to open a gig, but I think it just works, doesn't it?
can I tell you? Yeah, I wanted to tell you what I thought of the comparisons. And actually, maybe we can take this on to the next section. Well, so yeah, appeal and accessibility, set list, and the next point is the timing. So in the mid 70s, we had a plethora of live albums coming from your favorite rock bands, didn't we?
Yeah.
Zeppelin, Rat-It, Thin Lizzy, Kiss. Those are just some to name but a
Deep
few.
Purple.
Deep Purple. But one album that I felt this most compares to, and I think I wonder if you'll agree with me here, and it's because of the reasons you've said, which is that it doesn't really feel like they've gone, okay, we're gonna put this song here to get a tremendous amount of energy. It just feels like they have done the set list the way they want, showcasing their favorite songs.
Yeah.
I felt this album was very much like Simon and Garfunkel in Central Park.
Central Park, yeah.
That
Yeah.
one. You know
Central
how
Park
they
song.
just also have, they've got some songs that are a bit more up tempo, but they just have this general speed, don't they? Where it's just,
Yeah.
I
There's a
can't
pace. There's a
describe it, you know
pace
what I
to the
mean? A
gig. Yeah.
pace, yeah. And I feel that this is what they got here as well with Peter Frampton, because I was expecting when I read that it's rock's biggest selling live album, I'm thinking, right, let's hit play, and I'm waiting for like an onslaught of speed, soloing, if not sort of showing off stuff. If it was still poppy, I'd expect it to be fast.
Yeah.
None of that. None of that. But it didn't disappoint, because then it takes you to the next song, which is like a kind of funky, the doobie wah, isn't it, or whatever it's
Yeah.
called.
Yeah.
Brilliant, man. And
Yeah, Doobie was, yeah, it's a funk song, and it's like that funky guitar all the way. But again, it's not like James Brown funk. It's not fast.
no, 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 no.
There's that pace. So it's just, I think it just creates an atmosphere that lasts for the whole album, and it's just,
Mhm.
it feels like might have been one of the most pleasant experiences in the '70s to go to a Peter Frampton gig and
Yeah,
just enjoy that vibe all the way through the end,
yeah,
for the show to the end. So basically, yeah, and as you mentioned that song Doobie Wah, there's a line in the lyrics that I really like. Do what everybody says is wrong. So basically, think
rock
about
and
this.
roll.
Do what everybody says is wrong. It's rock and roll, and it's a funky song, but that's the rock and rollness of the lyrics. Like, you don't need to be like everyone else. We keep
Yeah,
talking about how this comes up in rock lyrics all the time. This sort of subject. don't do what people expect you to do. And yeah, super cool. I love that song. So again, the gig starts with something's happening not too fast. Doobie Wah, a light kind of
Yeah,
you know, not so fast funk, and then you have Show Me the Way with the talk box, which is a phenomenal pedal that creates the most amazing guitar effect,
yeah,
and
I love that.
it's a pop song and everyone knows the chorus. That's brilliant. It's a brilliant way to start a gig. There's another thing, so again, about this pace of the gig. After like 4 songs, after 4 songs, they go into an acoustic section of the set. So he
Yeah,
plays one song on its own. I think
two
2 songs.
songs.
Yeah, two
Yeah,
songs on his own. So it's
All I Want
All I
to
Want
Be
to Be
and
is
Wind
by
of
Your Side
Change.
and Wind of Change. Yeah. And then the band joins him again for Baby I Love Your Way. And that's another massive hit. But then you have that mix. See how interesting it is. Like band and then solo acoustic and then acoustic with the band because they join
Mhm.
him, but he's still playing acoustic guitar for that song.
So
So
textures,
yeah,
textures, they're going for a
it
lot
takes
here.
it takes you exactly, eliminates layers of instruments and then brings them back in.
Because I feel you've always said something along the lines of it's a good song if you take away all the extras and just have an acoustic guitar and a piano,
Yeah,
acoustic guitar and the vocals. And if the song works like that, then you can put anything else you want on top and it will still be good. It's kind of like that here, isn't it?
it would be like that for every song, but then he actually does it. He plays a
Yeah,
couple of songs with no other instruments,
yeah.
just acoustic guitar, and that's I think where he shows how good his vocals are, because
Mm.
everyone talks about Peter Frampton, the
Well,
guitar player. His vocal technique is super good, super cool, and it's like he's not overdoing like most modern pop singers do.
it's very
Just
natural.
whatever, yeah, very natural.
Yeah.
He goes to the high pitched notes when they are necessary to the song, I guess. Or
Well, then
only,
let's move on to my one of my next points, which is the musicianship.
yeah,
Uh, Brilliant. I mean, I just thought that that band, without showing off in any way, sounded so tight and so together. Uh, they went from. I just feel that they had the interchangeability to go from performing like a very easygoing rock and roll tune to then something way more disciplined. And I mentioned the word prog, and I don't mean it as like Genesis or Emerson, Lake and Palmer, but there are some sections of this album and some sections in certain songs which require discipline, require the band to
yeah,
be really tight with each other. Because Peter Frampton's soloing over a certain chord progression, you got to make sure you match those chords when he moves. You can't just
yeah,
sort of mess. It's not a 3 chord song like a rock and roll song or something. And the way they just switched from being like a really loose band to then suddenly really tight in the next song. What a band!
yeah,
And just to credit them, actually, I've
yeah.
got the names of them. So obviously, you got Peter Frampton on vocals and lead guitar, Bob Mayo on rhythm guitar, piano, electric piano, Hammond organ, and backing vocals, Stanley Sheldon on bass and backing vocals, and John Siomos on drums and percussion. And I mean, the
All
band
phenomenal
sound bigger.
musicians.
The
Yeah.
band sound bigger than 4 men, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, and
I
this is
feel it
the
feels like a six
classic.
piece band.
For me, this is the classic 70s lineup, which is normally a 4 or 5 piece. 5 piece when you have a solo singer, the
Yeah,
guy who's not actually playing an instrument,
yeah.
just
So
singing.
two
But
guitars, bass, drums, vocals.
well, in this case, guitar, keyboard,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
bass,
But you know what I
drums.
mean? Yeah, yeah.
It's the classic. You either have 2 guitars or guitar and keyboards. And well, talking about keyboards, when the band comes back and they play "Baby I Love Your Way," is where the keyboards actually take the lead and
Yeah.
they play the keyboard sounds louder in the mix and it plays the riff and it plays a solo. So you see how he's using the musicians and the exact part of the song that they are most needed. And I
Yeah.
think this is one of the best features of the album. It's like, yeah, everyone can play really well. No one is overplaying at any point. And when they need to take the lead and do something, um, you see how good they are. So again, it's a live album that sounds like a live album. One thing that most people don't understand is nowadays, uh, I would say that 99% of live albums are fake. And
Yeah.
it's
Hold
people.
on, before you go there, because I know where you're going, and this is just going to go into my next point,
Mhm.
production. So go on, take it away.
Production. Okay, we're gonna
Go
talk
for it.
about production. Yeah. So in terms of production, I'll tell you what I actually thought when I first started listening to this again, like this week, not when I listened to it for the first time. When I started listening to it again, I wasn't really happy with the sound quality of the album. Sounds a bit, it's you can't quite hear every instrument. There's a bit echoey. I don't know. It's proper
Interesting.
live recording. I found that that was the issue. Uh, but you get used to it after two songs, my opinion. So just get used to the fact it's not as crystal clear as a studio recording.
Well, oh, so wait, you're comparing it to a studio?
To studio recordings in
Oh, I
general, right?
see. Because
Yeah.
I
So
just
when you
want
hear
to,
it, it's a
yeah,
great, yeah, it's a great sounding album, but you can clearly tell it's a live album. So
okay,
because when you're
yeah, I
recording
agree.
stuff, is yeah, let's say you're playing bass in a live gig, and your bass is likely distorted for, well, maybe the bass amp wasn't set up properly. Maybe the microphone is in the wrong position. Maybe the cable has an issue. Whatever. If your bass sounds slightly distorted, that's how it's going to come out in the album. There's not
Mhm.
much you can do to fix when you're capturing the sound, and there's some issues with that. Nowadays, people just go and fix it by re-recording the whole thing. So
Yeah.
they re-record the bass. So most live albums you have now, the vocals are not live. Maybe the drums are going to be, but the guitar solos are all overdubbed. So you don't even know. I think they did some overdubs in this album, but Frampton said they only overdubbed, like, I think it was one of the talk box parts that they missed the tape or the recording. Something went wrong and they didn't have the actual recording,
So it was
and they had to
necessary.
redo it. Hmm?
So it was necessary.
Yeah, it was
The
necessary
song
for
wouldn't have been complete without overdubbing it.
exactly, but just when you have something that really failed, and like the kick microphone was like pointing to the wrong direction because someone hit it or whatever. So
Yeah,
they had a few issues that they had to fix, but not
that's
like
fair.
most people do, just like re-record everything. So the vocals are 100% live, the
I
guitar
that
solos are
yeah.
100% live.
That's what I love, especially about Deep Purple's Made in Japan, is that you can hear when Richie Blackmore fucks up, and I love
Mm.
it. I love it. There's one of them where he's on the Highway Star solo, and he's going, and he goes,
Yeah.
I just love it. Every time that part
Yeah.
comes, I love it because it's raw, it's authentic. That's how it happened on the night.
And to
Why,
yeah, and
why
to give
rob someone?
credit to
Yeah.
Frampton, he didn't fuck up with any solos.
No, but then again, none are as fast as Highway Stars, so we got to
Oh
give
yeah,
Blackmore
exactly.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
That's true. But that's it. Yeah, it's they sound really tight. The tempos. They're not playing to a click track as most people do nowadays as well. So the
Mm,
tempos are solid. The band is tight, and they really good with dynamics. They like, again. I'm going to mention the last song. Do you feel like we do? Because they go down like by a lot, and
yeah,
and then bring it up again, and it's a great ending. But in terms of production, I think they made the right choices of, number one, not adding musicians.
yeah,
That's a four-piece band. Most solo artists, they have maybe a 10-piece band live. They can have as many musicians as they want, and reproduce every single layer that you've done in studio. Every track you record in studio, you can go and do it live. If there's four guitars, you can have two, three guitar players on stage and pick the main lines and play all of them or most
yeah.
of them. Whilst when you have just him as a guitar player, he has to actually play the solos perfectly and go back to the riff perfectly. And
Mm.
I think it was the right choice for production, which is stick to a four-piece band playing live and not extending the songs too much apart from a couple of songs.
And then the last song, had to be extended just to get the audience going and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, with regards to the production, I completely agree. Excellent production value. I think it still sounds good. If I got a live recording from a band I went to see last week that sounded that good, I'd still be happy.
Yeah.
I think the sound is the sound is so fantastically balanced that you still capture the audience and the energy and the atmosphere, but without sacrificing quality of the audio. And with that, we'll go on to the next point I have, which is about the audience interaction.
Oh yeah, you can hear the hand
which
claps
is
and
such a big part. You can hear everything. This is what I'm
yeah,
saying about that production. You can hear when one woman screams in the middle of a song, a good
yeah,
scream, not like a fatal scream, like when she screams when her favorite chorus, and you can hear that on its own.
yeah.
And yet at the end of the song, you get all the claps coming in, and I don't know, man. It's just that the audience. It felt like I felt happy for them that they were there. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Sometimes you get gigs where you might even have a hint of jealousy where you're like, oh fucking hell, I wish I was oh this sounds so good tonight, Deep Purple. I wish I was there back in '78 or whatever.
yeah.
And other times you might be like, I don't know, if the sound wasn't good, you might say, oh, I'm glad I wasn't at that one. But this one, I was just so happy. I was like, oh, those bastards. They must have had a great evening. And I just have to say quickly, I like this album as a live album and as what I got delivered. If I paid £10 for a CD and I just wanted some good, easy listening rock music in a live scenario, but it's not my favorite ever music. I don't know if I'd go and listen to the songs individually, yet still I come away from it thinking, oh, I'd have loved to have been there that night, just to have seen how it
So
went down.
that's what a good gig should be. Like,
Exactly.
please your fans and stay connected with every person who is there, even if they're not familiar with all your material. So
Yeah.
that's like, think about it. He had 4 albums, which is like a really good catalog so far. And
Yeah.
by the breakthrough album was a live one. This is insane. I don't think it has happened before this one. Maybe he's one of those artists that his live performances are really special and they're better than any studio album he could possibly
Mm.
make. It's still his best-selling album and probably the best. And yeah, I agree with you that the connection with the audience is amazing. I love that point in every song when people recognize a song
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you can hear people just like clapping because they know, oh, this is my favorite song, or I know what's gonna happen now. And
Yeah.
it's yeah, so the yeah, so if you check any footage of Frampton playing live with any uh um like you can find something more recent or something he did in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, whatever. Everything he does live, it does with pleasure, and you can see he loves interacting with the audience,
Mm.
and it's always a great gig.
Yeah, talking to them, letting them finish the phrases. There's I don't know what song it is, but there's one where he says the line, and you can just hear in his voice, he steps away from the microphone as if to say to the audience, "Go on, you do
Yeah,
it." And that's the next thing that makes a fantastic gig, isn't it? Is
yeah,
that just being acknowledged. I mean, there are moments, I went to see a metal band called Mastodon, who are one of my favorite bands, but their whole thing is get on, play as many songs as we can, and go away. I don't want to say it in case I make them sound like dicks, but I don't remember them saying, "Thanks for coming tonight. Great to see you here. So many of you. We're Mastodon from America." None of that. Just song after song. Thank you. Next song.
yeah,
Next song. Next song. Thanks a lot. That's it. But
yeah.
then again, I think
Well,
that comes more with heavy metal. You're playing a character. You've got to be dark and dreary. But he welcomed the fans with open arms and said, "Listen, this is an evening for all of us. Come and get involved."
it's like you're having a party at your flat, isn't it? And someone brings a guitar, but they are actually good.
Yeah.
Because every time that happens, the guy who brings the guitar can't fucking play.
He wants someone else to play though.
Exactly.
Do you know what? In terms of my points, I'm done. I didn't really. I felt, so just to recap, I felt that these were the key factors of
Yeah.
what made this album so good: the exceptional musical performances, the set list, the audience interaction, the quality of production and the sound, the era and the year it came out, and the accessibility and the appeal that it had to wider audiences. I mean, pretty. I kind of made all my points with only half an hour gone, but I still feel that these are the keys
Yeah.
to any
Uh,
live album. And I wonder if, all these other live albums, I think of, what else came out? The Song Remains the Same. Now, what The Song Remains the Same did have is it had a bit of a looser feel to it. It was a bit jammy in places. It's Zeppelin, we know this. But it's sat for that reason. It sacrificed some quality. Robert
Yeah,
Plant's vocals aren't all fantastic in "Song Remains the
yeah.
Same." Jimmy Page's guitar playing isn't all fantastic, and whilst they're still exceptional musicians
Mm.
in that scenario, so maybe you could argue that
Well,
with "The Song Remains the Same," the performance is lacking compared to the others. I just feel this has everything. All
if
those
you
6 points
compare,
I made.
maybe what you're doing there is like if you compare some of those Zeppelin live versions to the studio ones, uh, that is not a, you know, there's no way those some of those live versions would win in a competition against the studio ones because
Yeah,
of all those
yeah,
imperfections. Although a live album has to have imperfections, otherwise it's just like studio.
yeah.
I think the difference between, if you're comparing those two albums, the difference for me between The Song Remains the Same and Frampton Comes Alive is The Song Remains the Same happened before the air, or after the airplane. What do I mean by that? They had an airplane, so they had nothing to prove anymore. When your band
Right.
owns an
Okay.
airplane, so all they were doing is to getting completely smashed and go on stage thinking we're rock gods, we don't give a fuck.
That's a good
Whilst,
point.
yeah, whilst
Yeah.
Frampton was like, okay, I've released 4 albums, I'm still not as famous as I deserve to be. The next one has to be the best one.
I've got something to
Happened to be
prove.
live, and
Yeah.
maybe then he realized that he could do on stage something that could never be reproduced in studio, I guess.
I wonder if he
It's usually the other way around, isn't it? What you do in studio, you can't do it live. What he
yeah.
did live could never be done in studio.
I wonder if he, because we think about bands nowadays like Metallica will go and record every show they do and then they can sell it to the fans the next week. That sort of technology I don't think was around in the 70s,
No,
unless I'm wrong or something. But I wonder if he, just from being on stage with this band night after night, I wonder if he didn't plan to have a live album, but just went, "Do you know what, this band, this is kicking ass.
yeah,
Do you know what? When we go back to America in a month to do these last 10 dates, let's record it because this
yeah,
sounds good. My songs have never sounded this good, and I
yeah.
wonder if
Maybe
that's
that
the
could have been the
approach."
case. I don't know. That's something I never read about. It might have been the case. I mean,
Yeah,
it's thing is they clearly having fun and the audience is having a good time with them, and
feels like
it's just
an
like
amazing place
okay,
to be.
yeah, yeah. I think when you listen to the album start to finish, you feel like you're there as part of the gig.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
long album. It's like, is it an hour and 17 minutes or something like that?
78 minutes. So yeah, an hour and
An hour
18.
and 18 minutes or something. So, but when I listened to it start to finish, it didn't feel like that
No, it
because
didn't.
you have some long songs and some short songs. Well, there's one cover song, right? There's the Rolling Stones' "Jumping Jack Flash,"
Yes.
and what I mean, I wouldn't dare to do that version, right? They, it's funky and there's a half tempo vibe on the groove, you know, in many parts. So it sounds like it's half of the speed. So, but it's not real. It's just interpretation,
Well,
and it's
yes.
so cool and it's so different. And he changes the melody for the chorus.
Well, this is the thing. I didn't realize it was Jumping Jack Flash until about halfway through the song, and he goes because he completely changes it, doesn't he? Because the song, it's all right. He goes, I don't. I'm not going to try and do it, but he completely changes it, and then halfway through the song, he goes, "I'm jumping Jack Flash," and I went, "Whoa, hold on!
Yeah,
Oh my God,
yeah.
it's a cover!"
Yeah, exactly. It's that
It
song.
takes you
Even
by
the riff sounds
surprise.
a bit different. He made it his own. You might not like it if you compare it to the original. I like both of them. I don't know if I could pick a favorite. And this song, they have like kind of a drum break and a jam session in the middle.
Yeah,
That's classic 70s rock. That
yeah.
freedom of 70s rock. Yeah, let's just have a kind of a drum break and then everyone takes a solo or whatever. And that's super cool. I really, really like
Yeah.
it. Do you have a favorite song?
Um, I really liked Lines on My Face. And I just have to say that I didn't listen to this album intently and go, okay, make a note. This
Yeah,
track nine's my favorite.
yeah.
I just can't I listened to the album 3 times this week and I let it flow.
Yeah,
I didn't even look, oh, the song's
because
changed.
that's the effect the album causes on you.
That's
It just
exactly.
flows. You
You
can't
don't
stop.
you don't really care
You can't
about.
stop and take notes about that. You just listen
No,
to it.
what happens? I mean, I'll honestly admit, with bands like Dream Theater, I got to like song 7, and I was like, right, how long's left? Oh, another 4 songs. Right, well, I'm just gonna go and top my water up or something. With this, I didn't care. Just sat back. eyes closed, just took it all in. But yeah, I answered your question. Lines on My Face was nice.
Yeah, so
I really
the
like Show
most
Me the Way.
bluesy, huh?
Well, you say that, but I tell you, do you know what? I heard various soul elements in this album as well. Just some of the way, like, again, as I was saying, with the production of the instruments, some of the effects he had on his guitar sounded really good and made the song what it seems.
Yeah.
So, Lines on My Face and Baby I Love Your Way, I thought were very souly. And something I want to add about Baby I Love Your Way, and this might be complete, maybe everyone disagrees with me. I thought he sounded like Bob Marley.
Oh wow, that is.
Can you
I will have
relate?
to listen to it again to
Please
actually find
do.
where that connection is.
It's
But
just, it's not even, it's not like he's singing with a Jamaican accent, but
no,
it's the way he delivers it. It's kind of like he's talking to you. And I just think, I'm trying to think of the song, Emancipate Yourself from, that's Bob Marley. And he's just delivering you his message. And
yeah,
I love that you could sort of take that same thing with Baby I Love Your Way.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, if you're listening and watching now, go and listen to Baby I Love Your Way and see if you can hear what I'm saying. And
Okay.
if you're going to let us know in the comments, let us know if you agree with me or not. And you've got to message me after, Felipe, all
Is
right?
it
Know what you
all
think?
right? Mhm. Okay, yeah, I will. I have to listen. No, you say that happens in Lines on My Face or Baby I Love Your Way?
Baby I Love Your Way, but
Okay.
both of them I find kind of
Yeah.
soully. They just
I
had
get,
this kind of atmosphere to them that I thought was really
yeah,
good.
there's another thing I want to say about the album, which is it's one of the he made an effect pedal become a part of the band, right? The talk box
And he uses
is
it in the last song as well, doesn't he?
he uses in two songs. The last one, Do You Feel Like We Do,
Yeah,
and Show Me the Way,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So the talk box is such an interesting device, and it came about like decades before this, but I think Frampton was the guy who made it popular, and then Bon Jovi used it, and David Gilmour used it. Not Bon Jovi, but his guitar player used it,
Yeah,
and Rich Sambora is it, and David Gilmour from Pink Floyd used it as well. So it became a thing, But the talk box, if you're not familiar with, if you ever seen a guitar player with like this tube going into his mouth, that's a talk box. It's usually attached to the microphone. Basically, it sends the instrument sound into your mouth, and if the way you move your mouth, you change the sound, you reshape the sound of the guitar and feed
mm.
it back into the microphone. So
Crazy, isn't it?
basically, what comes out of it is you got to check like videos and stuff about it because it's kind of really hard to explain exactly how it works. But basically, it's a mix of the guitar and the voice, or it literally makes the guitar speak,
Yeah,
makes the guitar talk. It's so cool. I mean,
and
and he uses it again, never in a self-indulgent kind of way. It's
mm,
just it makes the guitar speak to the audience.
but it's a complete shock when it first comes in song three.
Yeah,
I
you're
was
like,
there
what the
like,
hell is
hold
that?
on, yeah, what's going on here? And then he brings it back for the last song, which I thought was really good.
My
Uh,
opinion is a lot better than a wah wah pedal and less annoying.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, brilliant. Do you have anything else to add, bro? Because, like I said, I've made my points.
I, I'll
I just thought, yeah, go on, go on.
I would just say listen to it. Grab a beer, call your friends,
Yeah, get the
play the
speakers.
album instead of watching a movie. Just take a day to listen to the album start to finish.
Do you know, was there an was there an accompanying video that came with it, like a DVD? Do you know?
Good question. Not at the time. There was no DVDs at the time, but I don't think it
You
came
know what I
out
mean?
as VHS.
VHS, yeah.
I don't think it came out as VHS. I think he has a Live in Detroit, which is like way more recent than that one,
Okay.
which was the first DVD I watched from Peter Frampton. I'm not quite sure, but I don't think there's live footage from those specific gigs.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Do you want to tell us why you think this album is so rock and roll?
Uh, the freedom of rock and roll, I think, is in the way they play those songs. They never intending to be pop or rock or anything. They just want to play good songs. and the music is bigger than the musicians. For me, that is, you know, although rock and roll has a lot of ego, I don't think there's any ego in this album. But maybe what makes it rock and roll is the fact that they can play a 1 minute and 23 classical guitar song, and then they can play a 14-minute rock song with everyone taking a solo. And I think the diversity of the album is what makes it a rock album. You can't call a pop album if you have a 14-minute song and an instrumental classical guitar song,
Yeah.
right? So rock music is that. You can write a pop song, you can have an instrumental, you can have a long song, you can have a bluesy guitar solo. And when you don't know what name to give to a certain kind of music, you just call it rock.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I suppose as long as there's a guitar and a drum kit, I think you can call it rock, can't you?
Well, Emerson, Lake and Palmer doesn't have a guitar.
There you go. Touche, sir. Touche.
If you don't know how to name this
You
style,
got
just
me.
call
Yeah.
it rock.
Just call it rock. Yeah. Perfect. Excellent. You ready for my monologue?
Yes.
Sure. Let's go. So let's end the show with
Shoot.
Laz's more normal monologue. So, Frampton Comes Alive combines and perfectly executes all the things we love about live music, live gigs, and live albums. The performances from the individual musicians are fantastic, and at the click of a drumstick, they can switch from loose rock and roll straight to disciplined prog rock. Frampton's guitar work is sublime, and each solo flows beautifully, displaying his technique and skill, but still flourishing with lovely melodies, motifs, and passages. The production value of the album is unbelievable, achieving such a solid sound with a brilliant mix whilst keeping the energy and atmosphere of the gig is a great productional achievement. In an era where live shows and albums were thriving, it was important for this to stand out, and although most people might not go straight to the production for reasons why it is successful, it's certainly a key element. Not knowing much at all about Peter Frampton, I can't speak to the setlist and the song choices, but the setlist is renowned for containing all of the best songs that Frampton fans could want, while still keeping it accessible and appealing enough for non-fans to enjoy as well. The sheer variety of styles in the album keeps the listener so entertained, going from a bluesy jam to a hard rock, almost metal riff in one of the songs, to some easy listening soul ensures that everyone who went to the concert had something to enjoy. You can tell this from the way he reacts and interacts with the audience, singing the words back to him and finishing off phrases. I can't say that there was any moment where I said, wow, this is the best live solo song moment I've ever heard, but the amalgamation and culmination of everything we mentioned in this episode and in my paragraphs above only solidifies the notion that this is one of the greatest live albums of all times. I can't argue with that. I went from not knowing anything about Peter Frampton to wildly fist pumping 1 hour later during the outro of Lines on My Face. That, to me, says all I need to know about the quality, accessibility, and nostalgic value this incredible album carries with it.
Yeah.
It's everything we love about gigs, isn't it? Isn't it everything we love about gigs was done really well on this album? I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
What an album.
What an album. Excellent. Right. Well, guys, thank you for joining us for another Long Live Rock and Roll podcast episode. As usual, follow Felipe's advice. Go and listen to it. And if you haven't done already, please go and subscribe to our social media channels. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Give us a like, comment, subscribe. And if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, please give us a review. The tiniest 30 seconds of your time to type something out and give us a 5-star review can make the world of difference to us, because we might shoot up the algorithms, and the next time someone searches Frampton looking for some music, we might come up. So we'd really appreciate that, guys. Just give us a quick like and subscribe. Not a lot of time on your behalf, but it would mean the world to us.
And if you guys
jumped in, go on.
If you think we're worth 4.5 stars, just round it up,
Yeah, that's it. Perfect. But anyway, guys, thank you for joining us.
Keep on rocking, everyone.
And as usual, take care and long live rock and roll.